Welcome to Galactic Nova Stories, where cosmic emotions come to life. Your journey begins now. Marcus Teller's flashlight beam sliced through the darkness of the junkyard, illuminating piles of discarded spaceship parts that loomed like sleeping giants. As a night technician at the Orbital Waste Reclamation Facility, Earth's dumping ground for defunct spacecraft, he'd seen his share of oddities. But nothing had prepared him for what his light revealed behind a crushed navigation console. A pair of large, iridescent eyes reflected his beam, their pupils contracting into thin, vertical slits. Something scuttled backward with a soft chirping sound. "Hello?" Marcus called out, heart hammering against his ribs. "I'm not going to hurt you." He crouched down, making himself smaller, and that's when he saw them clearly. Two figures huddled together beneath a makeshift shelter of curved metal panels. The larger one had pulled the smaller protectively behind her, their skin a pale blue that shimmered with faint bioluminescent patterns. Not human. Definitely not human. "Please," the larger one whispered in halting English. "No report. No authorities." Her voice had a musical quality, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Marcus lowered his flashlight. "You're Azuri, right? From the Cygnus sector." The alien nodded slowly, the luminous patterns on her skin pulsing with what Marcus assumed was anxiety. "I am Lynn. This is Mira, my daughter." The smaller alien peered around her mother, childlike curiosity momentarily overcoming fear. Everyone knew what had happened to the Azuri homeworld, obliterated in the crossfire of the Centauri conflict. Refugees scattered across the galaxy, unwelcome almost everywhere. Earth had officially closed its borders to non-human refugees 3 years earlier. "How long have you been here?" Marcus asked. 2 lunar cycles, Lynn replied. "Our transport malfunction, emergency landing. Others did not survive." Marcus noticed their gaunt frames, the way their once beautiful skin seemed dull except for the nervous pulses of light. They were starving, dying. Something twisted in his chest as Mira stepped forward suddenly, reaching a 6-fingered hand toward him with innocent trust that made his throat tighten. Her skin brightened momentarily as their fingers touched, a whisper of connection that transcended species. Every great bond starts with a single moment of courage. Galactic Nova Stories is just beginning, and your support matters. If you love emotional sci-fi tales, forbidden connections, and stories that stay with you, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us bring more stories from the stars to you. Marcus made his decision in that moment. "I'll be back tomorrow night, with food and blankets." "Why help?" Lynn asked, her voice barely audible over the distant hum of the reclamation machinery. Marcus thought about the spaceships he dismantled daily, monuments to humanity's reach for the stars. About the wars fought over resources that had devastated worlds like theirs. About how his own species had closed their doors when others needed them most. "Because we're not all what the galactic news says we are," he replied simply. "Some of us still believe in helping those who need it." As he walked away, the weight of his promise settled on his shoulders. Harboring aliens was punishable by 20 years in a lunar penal colony. But the image of Mira's trusting eyes and Lynn's desperate protection of her child haunted him. Humanity had reached the stars through ingenuity and determination. Surely he could use those same qualities to help 2 refugees survive. Tomorrow he would begin. Tonight he would plan. Marcus returned the next evening with a backpack full of supplies. Nutrient packs scavenged from decommissioned ship galleys, thermal blankets, and a portable purifier for the stagnant junkyard water. Finding items compatible with Azuri physiology had been challenging. Their metabolism processed certain elements differently, but his years of salvage work made him resourceful. When he approached their hiding place, only silence greeted him. "It's me," he whispered. "Marcus." A slight shimmer of movement caught his eye as a panel shifted, revealing their makeshift shelter. Lynn emerged cautiously, the bioluminescent patterns across her skin pulsing with what he now recognized as anxiety. "You returned," she said, the surprise evident in her melodic voice. "I said I would." Marcus knelt and began unpacking his offerings. "This food should be safe for you both. It's from Centauri trading vessels. They stock items for various species. Mira appeared beside her mother, her large eyes fixed on the colorful nutrient packs. Unlike her mother's caution, the child's skin glowed with excited patterns that danced across her blue flesh. "For us?" she asked in perfect English, surprising Marcus. Lynn noticed his expression. She learns quickly, absorbs languages from even brief exposures. Marcus smiled at Mira. "Yes, little one, for you." The child approached, her movements fluid and graceful despite her weakened state. When she reached for the food, Marcus noticed the delicate webbing between her fingers, an evolutionary adaptation for a world with vast, shallow oceans. For an hour, Marcus sat with them, watching as they ate. Gradually, Lynn began to speak, more freely, explaining how their refugee transport had malfunctioned, crashing in the remote wilderness. They had walked for weeks before finding the junkyard, a place with materials they recognized, where they could hide among the discarded. Ships that reminded them of home. "Most of our people scattered after the destruction," Lynn explained. "Some found sanctuary on Proxima B, but many transports were turned away. The galaxy fears refugees will bring conflict with them." Marcus listened, anger building at how his own species had responded to the crisis. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "Why help dangerous aliens?" Mira asked suddenly, repeating what she must have heard from broadcasts or perhaps overheard from facility workers. Marcus considered his answer carefully. "Because you're not dangerous. You're just people who need help." "The electromagnetic fields here," Lynn said, changing the subject, "they interfere with our natural sensing abilities." Marcus hadn't known the Azuri could perceive such fields. Fascinating adaptation. "Is that painful for you?" "Disorienting," Lynn corrected. "Like losing one of your senses." This gave Marcus an idea. As a technician, he understood electromagnetic shielding. Perhaps he could build something to help them. When he finally left that night, Mira walked him part way, her small hand slipping trustingly into his. "Will you come tomorrow?" she asked. "I will," he promised, squeezing her hand gently. As he walked back to his quarters, Marcus realized something had fundamentally shifted in him. These weren't just aliens to be helped out of moral obligation. They were becoming friends, connections that transcended the artificial boundaries of species and politics. In his small apartment, he began sketching plans, not just for electromagnetic shielding, but for something more permanent, something they deserved, a home. 2 weeks passed, with Marcus visiting Lynn and Mira nightly. Each time he brought more than just supplies. He brought knowledge, learning everything he could about Azuri physiology and needs, their requirement for higher humidity, their sensitivity to certain light wavelengths, their ability to perceive electromagnetic fields, all crucial details for what he was planning. Tonight, he spread his sketches on the ground inside their shelter. "It's not just about surviving anymore," he explained as Lynn studied the drawings. "You need an actual home." The sketches showed a structure cleverly integrated into the junkyard landscape, undetectable to casual observation, but spacious inside. Repurposed environmental systems would maintain Azuri optimal conditions. Salvaged power cells would provide energy. Most importantly, specialized shielding would create a safe space for their electromagnetic sense to function properly. "This cannot be built," Lynn said, though hope flickered in her eyes. "Too complex." "I'm a salvage technician," Marcus reminded her. "Building things from scraps is literally my job." Mira sat beside him, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with excitement as she traced the drawings with her 6-fingered hand. Over the past weeks, her condition had improved with proper nutrition, but she still suffered from environmental stress. This morning, Marcus had found her curled in pain, her sensitive system overwhelmed by a power surge in the nearby processing plant. "When can we start?" Mira asked, looking up at him with eyes that had become achingly familiar. "I've already begun." "Collecting components," Marcus said. "But there's a problem. Security patrols are increasing. They're looking for scavengers stealing valuable parts." The irony wasn't lost on him. The facility existed to reclaim useful technology from decommissioned spacecraft, yet he would be punished for repurposing what they considered trash. Lynn's patterns darkened with concern. "Perhaps we should move elsewhere." Your safety— No, Marcus interrupted firmly. This is the perfect location. The electromagnetic interference from the processing plant actually helps hide your biological signatures from scanners, and I know every blind spot in the security system. As if to underscore the urgency, a distant alarm sounded, followed by floodlights sweeping across the far end of the junkyard. They froze in silence until the lights moved on. We need to accelerate the timeline, Marcus whispered. I heard supervisors talking about clearing this sector for new waste shipments. Later that night, as Marcus returned to his quarters, he made mental calculations of what he would need. Environmental regulators from the Class C cruiser in Sector 4, power converters from the diplomatic shuttle in Sector 7, shield generators from the military transport in the restricted zone. Each item presented its own challenge. Each retrieval would risk discovery. But the image of Mira's pain that morning steeled his resolve. In his apartment, Marcus pulled up the facility's schedule. On his datapad, 3 weeks before the sector clearing began. It would be tight, but possible, if nothing went wrong. The next night he arrived at their shelter with tools and a portable shield generator. This will help for now, he explained to Lynn, showing her how to operate it. It creates a bubble, where your electromagnetic sense should work normally. When he activated it, the change in both Azuri was immediate and profound. Their skin patterns bloomed with vibrant color, and Mira laughed, a sound like crystal bells that Marcus had never heard before. I can feel the stars again, she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. In that moment, Marcus knew that no risk was too great. These weren't just refugees. They were people with dignity and dreams who deserved more than mere survival. The plan wasn't just possible, it was necessary. Marcus worked through the night, his hands moving with practiced efficiency as he repurposed components that would have been melted down for base elements. A navigation console became wall paneling. Thermal regulators from a luxury cruiser formed. The core of an environmental system adapted to Azuri needs. Power cells rejected for minor inefficiencies were reconfigured into a stable energy grid. Beside him, Lynn worked silently, her six-fingered hands surprisingly adept at following his instructions. Together they built the foundation of what would become their hidden sanctuary. Our homeworld had structures that grew rather than were built, Lynn explained as they fitted sections together, living architecture that responded to our needs. Earth had only begun experimenting with that before the resource wars, Marcus replied, securing a connection. One more thing we sacrificed for expansion. Mira sat nearby, sorting smaller components with remarkable precision. Occasionally, she would sing softly, haunting melodies that made Marcus's chest ache with their alien beauty. She had recovered significantly with proper nutrition and the electromagnetic shielding, her natural curiosity emerging more each day. Marcus, what is this one? She asked, holding up a holographic game module salvaged from a passenger vessel. He smiled. It's a game. Here, let me show you. Taking a break from construction, he activated the module, projecting a simple puzzle game designed for long space journeys. Mira caught on with astonishing speed, her laughter bubbling forth whenever she solved a level. Your daughter is brilliant, Marcus told Lynn as they returned to work. All Azuri children develop rapidly, she replied, but pride colored her voice. Before the destruction, Mira was already showing aptitude for spatial mathematics beyond her age group. As the night progressed, their shelter took shape, no longer a mere hiding place, but the beginnings of a true home. Embedded in junk piles and disguised as unremarkable debris, it would be invisible to patrols while providing safe haven within. Why do humans dispose of so much? Lynn asked, gesturing at the wealth of materials surrounding them. Cheaper to replace than repair, usually, Marcus admitted. One of our less admirable traits. Yet you repair rather than replace, she observed. Marcus paused, considering this. Some of us still believe in fixing what's broken. As dawn approached, he connected the final components of the basic life support system, a triumph of improvisation and engineering knowledge. When he activated it, the air inside their growing shelter immediately began adjusting to optimal Azuri conditions. Lynn's skin patterns shifted to deep, peaceful blues, the first time Marcus had seen her truly relaxed. "This is remarkable," she whispered. Before leaving, Marcus showed them the security measures he'd implemented, emergency protocols, hidden exits, and most importantly, a one-way communication device. "Press this if there's trouble," he explained. "I'll come immediately." Walking back to his quarters as the facility awoke around him, Marcus overheard two supervisors talking. "Clearance of Section C begins in 2 weeks instead of 3. One said, "Orders from above. They want to make room for that military salvage coming in." Marcus's heart sank. 1 week lost. Construction would need to accelerate dramatically. In his quarters, exhausted but determined, he pulled up facility maps. On his datapad, marking locations of crucial components still needed. The most essential items were in restricted areas, higher risk but necessary. As he finally drifted to sleep, Marcus realized something that should have troubled him but didn't. His loyalty had shifted. His concern was no longer about breaking regulations or risking his position. It was about completing a home for a family that had lost everything, a family that somehow now included him. "You've lost your mind," Ellie whispered harshly, her eyes wide as she stared at the partially constructed shelter hidden within the junk piles. As the facility's medical technician, she had access to all sectors, which was precisely why Marcus had finally risked telling her. "Probably," he agreed, glancing anxiously toward the entrance where Lynn and Mira waited out of sight. "But I need your help, Ellie. The environmental system isn't stabilizing, and I think it's a biological calibration issue." Ellie ran a hand through her short hair. "Do you understand what happens if you're caught harboring aliens, especially Azuri? The lunar penal colony would be a vacation compared to what they'd do to you." "I know the risks," Marcus said quietly. "Now, are you going to report me or help me?" For a long moment, Ellie said nothing. Then she sighed deeply. "Show me what you've built so far." As they moved deeper into the shelter, Marcus outlined each system: the power grid, the atmospheric regulators, the electromagnetic shielding. Despite her initial shock, Ellie's expression gradually shifted from disbelief to reluctant admiration. "This is actually impressive," she admitted, examining his work. "You built all this from salvage?" "Every component," Marcus confirmed. "But the atmospheric mix isn't right. Mira still struggles to breathe properly, and I don't understand." "Why?" "Well, that's where having an actual medical technician might help," Ellie said dryly. "Bring them in, let me see them." When Lynn and Mira cautiously entered, Ellie's professional demeanor took over. Though clearly uncomfortable at first, she began scanning them with her medical device, asking questions about their symptoms and physiology. "Their respiratory system processes nitrogen differently than ours," she explained after examining her. "Readings. The balance is wrong, you need more argon in the mix. And the humidity needs to fluctuate cyclically, not remain constant." For hours, the unlikely team worked together. Ellie's medical knowledge combined with Marcus's engineering skills created solutions neither could have developed alone. Mira followed them everywhere, asking endless questions that often provided unexpected insights from her unique perspective. "Your daughter mentioned you were a biological engineer on your homeworld," Ellie said to Lynn as they recalibrated the atmospheric system together. "Yes," Lynn replied softly. "I specialized in adaptive ecosystems." "That explains why Mira understands these concepts so intuitively," Ellie mused, watching the child helping Marcus adjust a control panel, her 6 fingers moving with delicate precision. By nightfall, the difference was remarkable. The shelter's environment had stabilized, and both Azuri moved with noticeably greater ease. Mira's breathing had normalized, and the pained expression she often wore had vanished. As they finished the final adjustments, Lynn touched Ellie's arm, a gesture of profound gratitude in Azuri culture. "For you risked much by coming here." "I took an oath to heal," Ellie replied simply. It didn't specify species. Later, as they walked back toward the staff quarters, Ellie broke the companionable silence. "What's your endgame here, Marcus?" "They can't hide in the junkyard forever. One problem at a time," he answered. "First, they need a safe home, then we figure out the rest." Ellie nodded slowly. "Well, count me in for the figuring, and I'm coming back tomorrow with proper medical supplies." Marcus stopped walking. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do, she said firmly. Because you were right about one thing. They're people who need help. And maybe that's what makes us human after all. As they parted ways, Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The burden was shared now. The impossible task seemed suddenly more possible. And somewhere in the junkyard, hidden among discarded remnants of humanity's interstellar ambitions, a real home continued to take shape. The alarm came 3 days later, a single pulse from the emergency communicator Marcus had given Lynn. He was in the middle of his shift, elbow deep in the circuitry of a decommissioned cruiser, when the signal reached his wrist device. "Medical emergency in Sector 7, he announced loudly to his supervisor, using the code he and Ellie had established. Possible radiation leak from that Taurian cargo hold. Before anyone could question him, Marcus was moving, tools clattering, as he dropped them and ran. Fear propelled him faster than he'd ever moved through the familiar maze of the junkyard. Not radiation, something worse. He found Lynn outside their nearly completed home, her skin patterns pulsing rapid distress signals. "Security drones," she whispered urgently. "They scanned this area specifically, looking for biological signatures." Inside, Ellie was with Mira, keeping the child distracted with a puzzle game. She looked up as Marcus entered, her expression grim. "They know something's here," she confirmed. "That wasn't a routine patrol, those were biological detection units." Marcus's mind raced. The shelter was nearly complete, power systems functional, environmental controls stabilized, electromagnetic shielding operational. But the outer camouflage remained partial, with several sections still recognizable as repurposed technology rather than random junk. "How much time do we have?" he asked. "The patrol will report findings," Lynn said. "Perhaps 1 day cycle before they return with human searchers. 1 day. 24 hours to complete what should take 72. Marcus made his decision instantly. "Ellie, take my shift tomorrow. Make excuses. I'm staying here all night to finish this." "That's insane," Ellie protested. "You can't complete the exterior camouflage alone in 1 night." "He will not be alone," Lynn stated firmly. "This is our home too." For 12 straight hours, they worked without breaks. Marcus showed Lynn and Ellie how to reconfigure salvaged hull plating to mimic random debris. They disguised ventilation systems as broken machinery, power conduits as discarded cables. Every component of their home disappeared beneath a carefully crafted illusion of worthless junk. Near dawn, as they applied the final camouflage elements, Lynn paused, her skin patterns shifting to deep colors Marcus had never seen before. "Perhaps we should leave," she said quietly. "Find another place. Your career, your freedom is at risk because of us." Marcus continued working as he responded. "Where would you go? Every spaceport is monitored, every habitat scanned." "We could try the northern wilderness," she suggested without conviction. "You wouldn't survive winter there," Ellie interjected, sealing a hidden access panel. "And Mira needs stability, not more running." Mira had fallen asleep hours ago, curled within the now comfortable interior of their shelter. Watching her peaceful rest had fueled their exhausting work through the night. "This is your home now," Marcus said with finality. "We've built it together, and we'll defend it together." As morning light began filtering through the junkyard, they made final adjustments to the camouflage systems. From even a few meters away, their creation was indistinguishable from the surrounding piles of discarded technology. The ventilation system mimicked natural air currents. Power usage was disguised as residual energy from decommissioned cells. Most crucially, the electromagnetic shielding now doubled as a biological signature dampener. When security drones returned that afternoon, Marcus and Ellie watched anxiously from their regular workstations as the machines hovered over the area, scanners probing. Minutes passed like hours. Then the drones moved on, finding nothing of interest in what appeared to be just another pile of space junk. That night, gathered inside the completed shelter, an unexpected feeling filled the small space hope, not just for survival, but for something more. "Home," Mira said simply, her skin glowing with contentment as she absorbed the functional electromagnetic fields that were so crucial to Azuri well-being. Marcus looked around at what they had accomplished. Not Just a technical achievement, but a triumph of compassion over fear, of connection over division. Home, he agreed. 3 months passed. The shelter evolved from mere survival necessity into a true home with improvements added weekly. Marcus had installed a small hydroponic garden that provided fresh nutrients for Azuri dietary needs. Ellie had integrated a proper medical monitoring system. Most remarkably, Lynn had begun creating beautiful light sculptures using her species' bioluminescent techniques, transforming the interior into something that honored her cultural heritage. "I wish I could show you our world as it was," Lynn told Marcus one evening as they sat together, watching Mira practice writing in both English and Azuri script. The floating cities that drifted on thermal currents, the luminous forests where our young learned to manipulate electromagnetic fields. Marcus listened, savoring these glimpses into a civilization now largely lost. "Tell me more about your science. You mentioned once that Azuri viewed technology differently than humans do." "We see no separation between the biological and the mechanical," Lynn explained. "Your species builds technology as something apart from yourselves. We grew ours as extensions of ourselves." "Is that better?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious. Lynn's skin patterns shifted thoughtfully. "Different approaches to the same questions. Your way led to remarkable adaptability. Humans can thrive in environments no Azuri could survive. Our way led to deeper integration with our surroundings, but perhaps made us more vulnerable when those surroundings were destroyed." Their philosophical conversations had become a cherished routine, revealing surprising parallels between their seemingly different species. Both had evolved curiosity, compassion, creativity, though expressed through different biological frameworks. "You know what amazes me most about humans," Lynn continued. "Not your technology or your resilience, impressive as they are. It's your capacity to expand your definition of us. Other species draw harder lines between themselves and others." Marcus considered this. "Not all humans manage that expansion." "No," Lynn agreed, "but enough do. Enough to matter." Their conversation was interrupted by Mira, who had completed her lessons and now proudly presented her work. Her mastery of written language had progressed remarkably, another sign of her flourishing under proper conditions. "Beautiful," Marcus praised, examining her precise script. "You're learning faster than I did at twice your age." Mira beamed, her skin glowing with pride. "Ellie says I could begin studying human medical texts soon. I want to learn how different bodies work." The child's resilience continually astonished Marcus. Despite everything she had endured, the destruction of her world, the dangerous flight across space, the months of hiding, she remained curious and hopeful. Later, after Mira had gone to sleep in her small alcove, Marcus helped Lynn with adjustments to the electromagnetic field generator, a system that had become increasingly sophisticated under her guidance. "I've been thinking," Marcus said carefully, "about the future. This shelter works for now, but eventually Mira will need more. Education, community, a chance to grow beyond these walls." Lynn's skin darkened with concern. "The human authorities—" "Not all humans are the authorities," Marcus reminded her. "There are people who would help if they knew. People like Ellie and me." The suggestion hung between them, a fragile possibility neither had dared articulate until now. Not just survival in hiding, but a genuine future, integration rather than isolation. "Perhaps," Lynn said softly, her patterns shifting to show cautious hope. "Perhaps the true strength of both our species lies not in what we can build alone, but in what we might create together." As Marcus left that night, he looked back at the unremarkable pile of junk that concealed something remarkable within, not just a technical achievement, but a statement of possibility, a reminder that compassion could be engineered into reality, as surely as any spacecraft. Humanity had reached the stars through ingenuity and determination. Now he understood those same qualities could build bridges between worlds, one salvaged component at a time. 5 years passed, transforming what had begun as a desperate shelter into something extraordinary. What Marcus, Ellie, and Lynn had built now extended through carefully concealed tunnels connecting multiple junkyard sectors, a hidden sanctuary, for those society had discarded as readily as the spacecraft parts surrounding them. The original shelter had become just one room in an interconnected haven where 6 different species now lived in harmony. Each addition had come through necessity: a pair of Viridian engineers whose transport had crashed in the nearby mountains, a Cantari physician fleeing political persecution, 3 Polari children orphaned during the border conflicts. Marcus stood at the entrance to their underground community garden, a triumph of xenobotany, where plants from 5 worlds grew together in carefully maintained conditions. Beside him, Mira had grown into a remarkable young woman, her Azuri features, now complemented by distinctly human mannerisms and expressions, the product of 2 worlds rather than just one. "The new hydroponic system is stabilizing nicely," she observed, adjusting a nutrient flow with practiced ease. "The Cantari medicinal herbs should be ready for harvesting next week." "Your mother would be proud of what you've accomplished here," Marcus said softly. Lynn had passed 2 years earlier, not from danger or deprivation, but simply from age. Her final days had been peaceful, surrounded by the family she had found among the discarded remnants of humanity's space ambitions. "She was proud of all of us," Mira replied, her skin patterns shifting to the deep blues of fond remembrance. "She never expected to find home again after our world was destroyed." The sanctuary had grown beyond anything they had initially imagined. What began as a desperate survival measure had evolved into a proving ground for what cooperation between species could achieve. Viridian engineering, combined with Azuri biological insights and human adaptability, had created systems more efficient than any single species could have developed alone. More importantly, word had spread carefully through underground channels. The Junkyard Sanctuary was now a waypoint in a larger network, a constellation of hidden refuges spanning 3 continents where those who believed in cooperation over conflict worked to build a different future. "Marcus," Ellie's voice called, from the communication system. "The teaching session is about to begin." In what had once been a storage area for decommissioned navigation systems, a classroom had taken shape. Here, twice weekly, human children were secretly brought to learn alongside young refugees from various worlds. Today, 20 children, human and non-human alike, waited expectantly for their lesson. "Who can tell me about the principle of adaptive symbiosis?" Mira asked as Marcus and Ellie watched from the doorway. A human girl raised her hand alongside a Polara youth, their differences momentarily irrelevant in their shared curiosity. Later, as the children departed through carefully secured passages, Ellie turned to Marcus. "The Council approved our expansion plan. 3 more sectors will be converted over the next year." "And the authorities?" Marcus asked. "Still oblivious," she confirmed. "Our friends in the security division ensure that drone patrols see exactly what we want them to see." Their network of allies had grown steadily. Facility workers who slipped them supplies, transportation coordinators who adjusted patrol schedules, even 2 sympathetic officials who diverted attention when necessary. That evening, as lights dimmed throughout the sanctuary, Marcus walked to the memorial garden, where a luminous sculpture honored Lynn and others who hadn't lived to see what their courage had begun. The sculpture, created by Mira, captured her mother's essence, a spiral of light that seemed to grow from the recycled materials around it. Beside him, Mira's skin glowed with gentle patterns that mingled pride and sadness. "Do you think it will always have to be hidden like this?" she asked quietly. "This life we've built together?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "Not always," he answered. "What we're doing here, proving that cooperation is possible, that boundaries between species can be bridges instead of barriers, it matters. Each child who learns these lessons takes them into the wider world." Mira nodded, looking around at the home built from discarded parts, a place where waste had been transformed into possibility. "Mother used to say that humans possessed something unique among spacefaring species," she said. "Not just technology or adaptability, but a capacity to reimagine what could be, to see potential where others saw only debris." Marcus smiled, remembering Lynn's philosophical insights during their many conversations. "We don't always live up to that potential." "But sometimes," Mira replied, her hand finding his as naturally as if they shared the same biology. Sometimes, you build homes from what others throw away, and that makes all the difference. Around them, the sanctuary hummed with quiet activity, disparate species working together in a harmony that existed nowhere else on Earth. A prototype for what might someday exist everywhere, built one salvaged piece at a time. Not just survival, but a new beginning.